Welcome. Thursday show. Welcome back to Brett Breaks Things. I've been hearing from some of you guys on a number of different things. One, I want to apologize. Yesterday, the show dropped out right into overtime. I was able to pick up the stream later, and we edited it together, but we did miss a portion of that overtime. Reach out to me if you want to know some of the details of what was said in that portion. But I hope you enjoyed the show anyway. I do apologize, and the edited version is up on our website and our YouTube page, so I do apologize for that. I want to say thank you so much. There was a few donators lately. I haven't been banging that drum too hard. You guys were very generous over the break, so I haven't really mentioned it much, but man, you donated again. And just some of you guys are saints, man. You people that are donating are absolute saints, allowing us to continue doing this. And, you know, sometimes I show up and at the show and I'm a mixture of like angry and excited, right? Angry and excited. And I'll tell you, I'm angry with and for you because I have an outlet to express my anger about this. I feel like I'm expressing it for you a little bit as well. And with your donations, you're saying, Brett, I can relate to your anger. You're expressing how I feel accurately. That's what you're telling me. And I get excited when I do the show because I'm excited about arming us with deep truths about what's going on. And when you donate, you're saying, Brett, bring us more of that. We appreciate that as well. You say a lot with it. You people are saints. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I promised we were going to continue with the Minneapolis situation as it developed. This is growing. It's metastasizing. It's becoming something that has really captured the country's attention, and there are developments, a few of them, like a new shooting. There was a man who was being detained in a traffic stop. He resisted, fled the scene. Now, the account that Miss McLaughlin, our spokeswoman for the Department of Homeland Security, the account she gives us is that this individual fled the scene, led them on a half-hour chase towards his home. When he got there, he crashed into the front of his home, jumped out the door, and simultaneously, two gentlemen exited the home, armed with what she said were a snow shovel and a broom handle, and accosted the ICE agents that were trailing this gentleman. As he exited the vehicle, they shot him. They shot him in the leg. He's lucky. Renee Nicole Good was not so lucky. They shot him in the leg as he retreated. Here's the thing about the video of Renee Nicole Good's murder. It's rare to get that kind of conclusive video evidence of what happened. That is why that killing has staying power, and why her killing is becoming the subject of so many more protests and gatherings and demonstrations, because it's so clear. Not only is it so clear to us that she was murdered, it's so clear that the administration is willing to come out and just lie and once again tell you that you didn't just see what you saw. We are not so fortunate with this shooting. There is not conclusive video evidence that the account that Tricia McLaughlin is giving us is the true account of what happened. We don't know. We do have video that picks up right after the gentleman was shot from inside the home, which does kind of cast a little doubt on Miss McLaughlin's version of events. We're going to play some of this. I might have to fast forward a little bit. We're not going to take up the whole segment with it, but we're going to play some of this from inside the home as they call 911.
En la pierna, en la pierna. Por favor, ayúdenos, tenemos hijos. Asómalo por la ventana.
Y si disparan.
Asómalo así, nada más por fuera. Los del aire, son los del aire.
Mira, quítate de ahí. Quítate de ahí.
Y venía persiguiendo a mi marido hace como media hora, lo estaban tratando de chocar. Y llegó a la casa y como le cerramos la puerta, le dispararon.
Okay. They shot him. They shot him. Now, the federal government's account of what happened, there's no way to verify it other than the eyewitnesses and what they tell us. No way to verify it. But Jacob Frey, this guy has been pretty to the point, and he's been speaking to the administration in pretty much no uncertain terms about what's happening in Minneapolis. He speaks again. Let's hear from Jacob Frey.
There's still a lot that we don't know at this time, but what I can tell you for certain is that this is not sustainable. This is an impossible situation that our city is presently being put in. And at the same time, we are trying to find a way forward to keep people safe, to protect our neighbors, to maintain order. And we're in a position right now where we have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. Why are we put in this position? We're put in this position because we have approximately 600 police officers in Minneapolis, far fewer that are able to work at any given time. And there are approximately 3,000 ICE agents in the area. 3,000. The 600 police officers that we have are charged on any given day with investigating crime, stopping homicides from taking place, preventing carjackings. That's the work of a police officer in a city. Meanwhile, we have ICE agents throughout our city and throughout our state who, along with Border Control, are creating chaos. This is not the path that we should be on right now in America.
Why does Jacob Frey have to go in the dead of the night to a press conference to address this shooting? Why? Because the protests and the demonstrations ramped up. 200 protesters gathered at the scene of that shooting. At least 200, right there. The whole thing got really kind of ugly. And there, I mean, we've got video. It got ugly. It got ugly, decidedly ugly. Look at that. You see these federal agents, you know, right when he was speaking, you see how it was unfolding. People throwing things, tear gas canisters, dozens of federal agents stalking around, people fleeing. Look at all that gas. Look at all that gas they threw. This scene unfolded all night. All night. So, yeah, Jacob had to respond. What else did he have to respond? We got another video here. What else did he have to respond to? Let's check it out. Bang, bang. Oh, my God. Are you seeing this? Look at that. It looks like a war zone. This is from the protesters' side. The first video we saw, that was walking amongst the ICE agents as they were throwing gas canisters. This is from the view of the protesters receiving this treatment. Bang. That is crazy. What country is this? Are you serious? It looks like a war zone. It looks like a war zone because yet again, a protester, a demonstrator, someone... Look, it got ugly. People are getting shot and people are pissed. People are getting shot by these ICE agents. This one wasn't fatal. It's in the leg. He was hospitalized. Detained. Hospitalized. He's going to live. He's lucky he's going to live shot in the leg. I don't have to tell those of you familiar with, injuries, medical emergencies, but the femoral artery, you hit that, that's game over, right? If they don't treat you fast enough. He's lucky to be alive, but he is. He's lucky to be alive, but he is. But there were scenes like this unfolding all night. There was one scene where some ICE agents showed up, marked ICE agents showed up, and protesters began throwing snowballs at the agents' cars. So the agents turned around, but before they left the area, they uncorked some gas canisters and tossed them backwards at the protesters as they fled the scene. I'm just curious if that is that protocol? Is that regular procedure? To willy-nilly just throw gas canisters and tear gas canisters in a neighborhood at protesters? Maybe it's somebody walking by, maybe it's somebody who just stopped to see what was going on. You all get tear gassed. Is that and then just moments after those ICE agents left that area, an unmarked SUV shows up. Agents, unmarked agents this time, get out and start spraying chemicals all over the protesters and anybody in the area. No warnings, no accusations, no de-escalating. We're just showing up. We're just showing up and we're tossing gas canisters around and spraying people with chemicals. No questions asked. Look at this. Look at this.
What you just saw was a federal immigration agent pushing an unidentified protester into oncoming traffic.
Is that procedure?
After appearing to block their vehicle.
They just fired off a tear gas canister.
And here, another violent clash between Border Patrol agents and an anti-ICE protester who appeared to swat an agent's hand away while recording an immigration enforcement operation. These moves coming on the heels of an explosive week for ICE. Their aggressive tactics only seem to be escalating. Last week, tensions between ICE and protesters erupted when a woman in Minneapolis was shot and killed by an ICE agent. DHS officials claimed the shooting was self-defense. Despite the nationwide scrutiny, ICE doesn't appear to be slowing down, raising questions by some police use of force experts whether the tactics of agents in handling both suspects and activists are inflaming an already volatile situation.
If they conduct violent activities against law enforcement, if they impede our operations, that's a crime, and we will hold them accountable to those consequences.
Look at
social media has been flooded with an onslaught of videos showcasing the rising tensions between ICE and protesters.
Just spraying out cars. Is that procedure?
The killing of Renee Good wasn't the start of these aggressive tactics. It was more of a tipping point. In August of 2025, Oregon state officials released a video of 2 federal officers slamming a protester to the ground outside an ICE facility. DHS says it was a targeted arrest.
You know how this has been going. Is that protocol? Is that procedure? Just out the side of a window? Is that protocol? That was crazy. People getting pushed into traffic. Slowing down. Did that reporter mention no signs of it slowing down? I just explained to you yesterday there was 40 instances of agents using discernibly lethal maneuvers, tactics physically on protesters, demonstrators, people who haven't been accused of a crime, people who aren't being investigated for possibly being connected with a crime or being detained. No, just lethal force here and there. Just WWE. 24 instances of people using specifically the type of hold, knee to the back, elbow to the throat that killed George Floyd. And 0 agents being reprimanded or held accountable for any of this. Slowing down. No, it's the very opposite. And you want to talk about ramping up? While we're talking about ramping up, how about Todd Blanche, our Deputy Attorney General, saying calling this a Minnesota insurrection. Here we go. Here we go again.
Brett breaks things because someone has to.
Yeah, here we go again. The Minnesota insurrection out of Todd Blanche's mouth. That is not insignificant because here Trump goes again. Here we go again. This is a True Social post from Donald J. Trump. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. He means invoke. That's okay. We get you, Donnie. I will institute the Insurrection Act, which many presidents have done before me, and quickly put an end to the travesty that is taking place in a once great state. Thank you for your attention. Well, we on this show had talked about the times that presidents have invoked the Insurrection Act, and the vast majority of them were like miners protesting, strikes, like miner strikes, logger strikes, like shipmen, like, you know, people who worked in the boating industry or some other striking. That's one. It becomes violent, right? They strike violently. The other major reason that they invoked it were civil rights instances. In Alabama, the kids trying to go to school, being blocked. The first African American group of students, they were being blocked from going to school. Things like that. Different civil rights incidences. Oh, she was. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's good. So he's talking about the Insurrection Act as well. And Kristi Noem, she said something about it this morning.
Will it lead to more deadly killings in Minnesota if the Insurrection Act is invoked?
If anything doesn't change with Governor Walz, I don't anticipate that the streets will get any safer or more peaceful. Governor Walz and his leadership team need to come to us and find out how we can work together like we have in many other states. We didn't see this kind of reaction in Louisiana when we ran our operations exactly how we are running them in Minneapolis, but we had a very different response because we had leaders that were working with us. If you saw our operations in Florida, extremely successful. In Minneapolis so far, we brought hundreds of criminals off the streets that were dangerous to society and dangerous to that community. We would wish that Governor Walz could take an example from the governor of Louisiana, the governor of Florida, and work with us to do the right thing for his people.
Yeah, actually, Kristi, it's going the opposite. Tim Walz isn't considering sitting down with you and the president to talk about a Federal Reserve troops deployment to your area. No, he's talking about activating their reserve to combat ICE violence and protect the citizens of Minneapolis and Minnesota. That's what he's considering. Quite the opposite. He's not considering facilitating your use of their reserve. He's talking about activating, or he already has activated them. He hasn't deployed them, but let's be clear, he has activated them in case ICE agent violence becomes too much and he feels the people of Minnesota and Minneapolis need protecting. Sorry, Kristi, he's considering the exact opposite action. Sorry. Now, the Insurrection Act enables the president to deploy U.S. military on our soil in extraordinary circumstances to quell an actual insurrection or, in the case of civil disorder or armed rebellion. Do you see how he's squeezing it in there, how he's putting a round peg in a square hole there? He's going to jam it in there. Civil disorder, right? Armed rebellion. Renee Nicole Good used her car as a weapon. These people in this house that were defending a fleeing detainee, they came out with shovels and sticks, armed. We're getting things thrown at us. We're getting firecrackers thrown at us, right? They keep circling back. They want it. They want it. In an Insurrection Act, the military is allowed to not only come in and sit down on your city, not only detain you, they're allowed to execute warrants, searches of homes, detain you in your home, detain anybody that's associated with you in any way. They can do whatever they want, not just stand around looking menacingly with weapons. Believe me, there's much more to it. Lots of constitutional rights go right out the window when the Insurrection Act is invoked. Just know this. So tensions are inflamed. People are saying things. We've heard from Jacob Frey quite a bit during this, calling it an impossible situation. And you know, it's funny. I started thinking about the numbers at play here in light of what Frey had to say. And I started thinking about the 600 Minneapolis police officers and 3,000, which they're up to total between CPB, ICE, FBI, DEA, protective services, even some secret service members are involved. Oh yeah. The Department of Homeland Security has brought this Voltron of forces together. They are all, in some facet, all those departments I just said, in some way, shape, or form, are being directed right now by the Department of Homeland Security. I thought about that huge group of federal forces, 3,000 strong right now, and the 600 officers in Minneapolis. Frey said, "We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another." He said that he hoped to force ICE out of his state through a lawsuit. And I told you about that lawsuit. They are being, ICE, Kristi Noem, they're being sued by the AG, Jacob Frey, as well. The AG of Minnesota, they're all suing this deployment. So there is the lawsuit, but he's talking about governmental entities fighting each other. And it made me start to really think about the Minnesota police, the Minneapolis police. How many of them are completely on board with ICE's mission? How many of them would join in or facilitate unconstitutional violence upon a demonstrator or a detainee? How many would stand on the sidelines and cheer? How many would be driven to intercede, to stop them? How many officers are willing to be violent with an ICE agent in the defense of a U.S. citizen or even a possible detainee whose rights are being violated? How many are willing to just walk away from the situation, detach themselves? I wonder what the splits are on that. I do know this, though. If I were a criminal in the Minneapolis area, oh, now's the time, right? Now's the time. As ICE and the federal agencies are directing local law enforcement operations, requiring assistance in detainees, requiring assistance in traffic stops. You've got law enforcement officers responding to 911 calls made by people who are being shot by ICE. If I were a criminal right now in Minneapolis, this seems like a golden opportunity. Now's the time to take your shot. The chaos that is just exponentially forming around this shooting, around this situation, from a micro and a macro level. And Tim Walz, he said a lot as well. And he spoke directly to the rhetoric coming out of Kristi Noem, Todd Blanche, and your president about the Insurrection Act. He spoke to it. He urged everyone who feels his anger to be peaceful. He said, I know you're angry. I'm angry. What Donald Trump wants is violence in the streets. But Minnesota will remain an island of decency, of justice, of community, and of peace. Well, we are hoping that, Tim. Because the American people can only take so much. They are getting very, very angry. This community in particular has been divided for years. They have been angry for years, and you have made them more angry. Demonstrably so. Actionably so. I don't know, Tim, if you're quite as angry as some of the people in Minneapolis are right now. I don't know if you're quite as angry as Renee Nicole Good's family or her wife, Rebecca Good. I don't know if you can properly take the temperature. I hope you're right. I really do. I really do. And the violence continues. The violence continues. there was another incident. Where somebody was shot. We're gonna bring the details, but this is becoming an all too common trend, and we're gonna bring you the story of another person whose life is completely altered by ICE now. ICE violence, violating people's rights under the color of law, which our criminal division, our civil rights division rather, in the Justice Department is refusing to look into. All these incidents, all of them, are they all going to be investigated by Kash Patel and his FBI? Are the state and local law enforcement law enforcement officers and officials, are they going to be able to do their job at all? Are prosecutory investigators going to be able to do their job at all? What about this gentleman who got shot in the leg? Are they allowed to investigate that? Can they get near that evidence? What about this gentleman that we're about to bring you now, whose life is completely altered? Are we going to get an investigation into this? I'm going to bring you the details. Get ready to get pissed off again.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things, where the stakes are high and the truth still matters.
Okay, all right, so there we go. So, all right, so last Friday, there was a big gathering around an immigration building in Santa Ana, okay? This was about Renee Good's shooting, okay? And they were gathering around an immigration building, these protesters, in response to the Renee Good shooting. At one point, the protesters, somebody grabbed an American flag and burned it. Okay, burned it, started chanting, "Justice for Renee, justice for Renee." There was agents right there, armed and in riot gear, all right? And they're watching this. And then an orange cone goes rolling through the scene. And that was all the ICE agents needed to justify violence. They claimed they had been attacked. And a scene played out right there at the steps of this immigration building that will change the life of one young man forever. Right there. All right. We're going to play it again. Hold on one second. Yeah, go back to the beginning, Sadie. We're going to play it again. I want you guys to watch the young man in the forefront. And what's he holding? He's got a megaphone, right? He's got a megaphone in his hand. He's wearing all black. He's got a nice head of hair. Here we go. Here he comes into the scene. Thank you, Scotty. You see he's got that white megaphone on the far left? Watch that young man, all in black with the white megaphone. Watch him. Boom. Okay. That young man was 21-year-old Caden Rumler. 21-year-old Caden Rumler. Rumler then fell down, face covered in blood, as the crowd, they had to gather around him. They were shouting, "Leave him alone, leave him alone." What did they do? They flipped him over, they handcuffed him, and they took him away. Tricia Laughlin, we've been hearing from her a lot. She's the assistant secretary and the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security. We've been hearing from her a lot. She called the group violent rioters and said the two officers were injured. 2 protesters were arrested and charged with assault on a federal officer and disorderly conduct. She did not mention the injury to Caden Rumler at all. She mentioned injuries to those officers who, by the way, that was never verified that any of them were injured. She just said it. This is what Caden Rumler looks like now. This is what he looks like now. After being in the hospital for 2 days and 6 hours of surgery. He is now blind in his left eye. He's blind. He's blind. His mother said, he's completely blind. There's a hole in his eyeball. He said, I will never see through my left eye again, not even light. I'm just glad I'm alive to tell my story. He's blind in his left eye because he had a megaphone and was walking with demonstrators when somebody threw an orange cone in the mix and ICE agents decided to fire on people. Now, he got hit with a pepper ball directly in his eye. That was the result of a pepper ball. This, while our Department of Homeland Security is confirming that Agent Ross suffered an injury when he was struck by the vehicle. Oh, yeah. He suffered a big-time injury. That's now coming out in the face of Caden Rumler, now blind in his left eye. Our Department of Homeland Security, they feel it's a priority to tell you that Agent Ross was injured when he was phantom hit by that car. And I pulled it again. I pulled it again. Internal bleeding is what they called it. They called it internal bleeding. But internal bleeding covers a wide range of injuries, including minor bruising. Minor bruising, just a little bruise, is considered internal bleeding. I'm going to play the video again, and I just want us all to be on the same page about he didn't get hit by anything. Let's watch again. Let's all watch him not get hit by this car as they claim he has internal bleeding. Let's watch. Nobody got hit there, period. Nobody got hit, but Tricia McLaughlin, once again, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agent Jonathan Ross suffered the injury when he was struck by her vehicle. Jacob Frey, we've been hearing from him. To this, the report that he was suffering internal bleeding. Jacob Frey spoke. He said that Ross walked away with a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door on his hip. Give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step. I'll tell you who I do believe was actually injured. This jackass. People were commenting, play it again. I believe he's injured. I believe that jackass is injured. I believe his hip is injured. I believe his coccyx is injured. I believe his pride is injured. I believe that jackass is injured. I truly do. What do we got? Oh, Scotty's got something for me. Well, I got holding. Ooh, Scott's got breaking production. Scott's breaking things. Oh, we got another one? Oh, we got another. Oh, thank you, Scotty. Here we go. I'm so tough. Slip. Fall. Stutter. I can hear some like Looney Tunes music as he wrote. What? Oh man, is he having a problem? And then it's a pylon. What is going on? Is that procedure? Is this protocol? Oh my God. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Scotty. Thank you for that. Yeah. I'm thinking of like a Looney Tunes, like where they run in place for a second with a puff of smoke. Okay. I believe they're injured. I don't believe Ross is injured. There's another group that is getting swept up in this that I want to talk about. Really cool reporting by the Washington Post, and we're going to be talking about the Washington Post a lot more in this show. There's another group that's being swept up in this. Jose Roberto Beto Ramirez. He was riding along with his aunt when ICE agents interdicted him, stopped their vehicle, and began to drag him out. His aunt began to panic and scream. claiming he's legal. He's a U.S. citizen. And as she's screaming, they successfully open the passenger door, drag him out, handcuff him, and drive him away. Okay? The aunt contacts the mom, Raylan Duffy. She goes to her house quickly, tries to get in contact with her son Beto, and cannot. So she quickly gathers up his birth certificate and any other identification, and she's calling ICE. She's trying to get a hold of her son. You see, Ramirez is a descendant of the Red Lake Nation, a federally recognized Ojibwe tribe in northern Minnesota. U.S. citizen, member of a Native American tribe, brown. That's all that ICE really cares about, is this young man was brown. He was held for 10 hours, and when released, he had scratches, marks, bruises, evidence of being struck multiple times, and cuts all over his wrists from the handcuffs. He is among several Native Americans who have been swept up in this immigration enforcement policy. Okay? He is a U.S. citizen. The tribal leaders in this area are speaking about this. Tribal leaders in the greater Minneapolis area did release a statement. A bunch of the leaders got together. They say indigenous family members, friends, and neighbors have been stopped, questioned, and harassed, in some cases detained solely on the basis of their skin color and their names. And other immigration experts are saying that ICE officers, they're saying flatly, they are racially profiling these people. They are seeing somebody who's brown, they are pulling them over, and they are arresting them. Flat out. It's what it looks like. It's what is it's what is happening. It's what's happening, period. There was another example. 4 members of the Oglala Sioux tribe were detained by ICE, okay? They were detained by ICE. One of them was released. 3 of them were detained and remain in custody at the B.H. Whipple Federal Building in Fort Snelling. Okay, put a pin in that. These 3, one was released, one was able to prove he was a citizen quick enough, but 3 are still held. The B.H. Whipple Federal Building in Fort Snelling. Now, it's on the outskirts of Minneapolis. One tribal leader, his name's Frank Stars, come out. He spoke about this real quick. He said, members of the Oglala Sioux tribe are United States citizens. We are the first Americans. We are not undocumented immigrants, and we are not subject to unlawful immigration enforcement actions by ICE or Homeland Security. Here's the sick irony. The Whipple building stands on the site of a military fort that during the Dakota War of 1862, Native Americans, it was a war between Native Americans and white settlers, by the way. Native Americans were imprisoned in this fort right there where the Whipple building is. They were imprisoned, they were tortured, and they were executed. 2 leaders were executed in 1865 right there. And the irony isn't lost on Frank Stars, comes out either. He said Lakota citizens who are reported to be held at Fort Snelling underscores why treaty obligations and federal accountability matter today, not just in history. Not just in history. What does the Department of Homeland Security have to say? What does Ms. Tricia McLaughlin have to say? Saying it has no record of its immigration officers detaining the tribe members. We have not yet uncovered any claims by individuals in our detention centers that they are members of the Sioux tribe. Well, if the ICE agents who detain these people and arrest them and bring them to the detention center, if they ignore their claims, if they ignore them as they scream from the back of their cars, handcuffed, if they don't believe them and then drop them off, why would I think anybody inside the prison would hear their claims or care either? And who do you believe? Who do you believe? These tribal leaders of these Sioux tribes? Or Tricia McLaughlin? Who has earned your distrust to this point? tribal leaders or Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security. And you know what's even worse? It's the government's like, hey, we wanted to make a deal with you. You see, 1,300 jurisdictions across 40 states have made a deal with local law enforcement for them to become like de facto ICE immigration agents. They make this deal so these law enforcement officials can assist in ICE duties. And tons of jurisdictions are making this deal. And they came to Frank Stars come out and they said, hey, why don't we make your tribal leaders, your tribal police, all of your tribal law enforcement, we'll make them ICE agents as well. And then you can help us catch your people. Frank said, no, dude, that's a non-starter. Non-starter. Not going to do it. That's brave. No pun intended.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
All right, we are going to go long today. I want to give you a little bit of an update. This is on the tails of that great story from the reporter that put her op-ed on Slate.com about her attempting to get hired by ICE. That was an amazing report. I mean, that was just awesome. And this next story I'm going to give you is kind of on the heels of that. It's in conjunction with that. Okay, so you know about this hiring surge, right? You know about the $75 billion granted to ICE and CPB to hire as many as possible. Huge hiring surge. The number they wanted to hit was about 10,000. About 10,000. And they did hire quite a few. They hired 10,000 plus ICE agents. They got there. Now, they use this AI tool. They use an AI tool to quickly identify those applicants who have law enforcement background. Okay? They are prioritized. Not only are they prioritized, but anybody who has a law enforcement background, they're considered an LEO. And there's an LEO program within ICE concerning training. You see, LEOs, or former law enforcement officers, they only require a 4-week online course to become an ICE agent. Okay? So you get law enforcement background. It's a much easier path to getting out in the field. And that's what we're talking about. Getting trained up, educated, trained, being in the right shape, mentally and physically, to head into the field with a gun and an ICE badge. LEO's 4-week online training. If you're not an LEO, you do an 8-week in-person training because you're just a regular Joe Schmo. Maybe you're a white supremacist or just somebody who really wants to learn how to bash brown people. Maybe you really do believe in the mission of ICE. Maybe you're really mad about that crisis at the border and you're just a regular person. No military background, no law enforcement background. I just want to become an ICE agent. I'll do anything it takes. Well, one thing it takes to become an ICE agent if you don't have that law enforcement background is an 8-week in-person course. It includes courses in immigration law. It requires courses in handling a gun and other weaponry. And it requires a physical fitness course and test that if you don't pass, you don't get out in the field. This AI tool, well, it made a bit of a mistake. And it made it on a big scale. Now, we are going to hear real quickly from an enforcement officer and an official who anonymously gave us details of what happened. Okay, this is an official within ICE who has details of how this AI tool screwed up. And I know some of you watch this show, you immediately downshift into, well, how do I know they can be believed? Well, this, like the other story, was confirmed by their own words. Okay, now they came out and they forced Laura, the reporter on the ICE hiring story, to come and show her receipts, which she did. They acknowledged that she applied and got through this process, but they denied that she was accepted. But she brought her receipts. She was forced to, but they commented on it. It's real. And like that, this is very real, as they commented on this as well. This AI tool, it's screwed up. And the tool, which is supposed to flag and bring to the forefront anybody who puts officer in their application, except the tool went and grabbed anybody who put adjacent terminology into the LEO program. What do I mean? Some people were compliance officers at their company, right? Or other kinds of officers that weren't law enforcement officers. It also pulled to the forefront to be an LEO anybody who said in their application, I aspire to be an officer. Like in the many, many instances, applicants put, I aspire to be an ICE officer. All of them got put into the LEO program, did not have to show up in public, did not have to take a physical fitness test, did not have to take any immigration law courses, and did not have any training on how to handle their gun. Oh, man. The one official who spoke about this to the NBC News said the majority of the 10,000 new hires were put in the 4-week LEO category. The majority of them. This is how people get shot. This is how people's rights get trampled. When the people who are trampling them had no idea what those rights are and have never heard of them. This is how it happens right here. This is how people get murdered. Shot in the eye. How citizens get detained, roughed up, dropped off in Walmart parking lots. How ICE agents can just freely toss gas canisters out cracked windows and drive away. Or show up in unmarked windows, pop out and spray you in the face with bear spray. This is how it happens. The AI mistake was not identified until mid-fall. Don't forget, one big beautiful bill that afforded all of this, right? The $75 billion increase in the hiring surge, that was in the summer, a little earlier. The AI mistake wasn't tagged until mid-fall. Mid-fall. Now, ICE immediately tried to take steps to mitigate the damage. They did manual reviews of the resumes. They're now having to bring some of them back to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center for proper training. They're starting to backtrack. They're starting to try to make this right, make it better. There's no official number on how many were improperly flagged. Okay? And it's not sure how many of those who were improperly flagged actually took part in arrests, detainments, interdictions, or violence. We don't know those numbers yet. But let's be clear. Agent Ross, who murdered Renee Nicole Good, he had 10 years of ICE agent experience. So we can't blame that on this story. We can't conflate those two. Ross had 10 years on the job. 10 years. And this ICE surge, this ICE and other federal agents descending upon Minneapolis, this buildup, this effort, it is so much more concerted and just so, there's so much more to what ICE has planned for us, the American public, in terms of this immigration policy, because it's going so much farther than just the immigration policy of the president. The ICE activities are ramping up in a way that we have details of now because they were leaked. Okay, this leaked 15-page document. A Border Patrol official who was outraged by ICE's conduct leaked to one reporter, Ken Klippenstein, who blogged this story about it. This agent leaked a 15-page document detailing all of these secret operations that are underway by ICE right now. And it is so much more than just you're brown on the street somewhere. We're going to get in your face, ask you questions. You might end up in zip ties in the back of a vehicle and then dropped off at Walmart. It's more than that. It's so much more than just that. It's so much more than just that. We're talking about major ICE operations. Now, I can't go through the whole thing. We don't have that much time, but I want to bring a couple operations to your attention. But just know that this source said there were absurd amounts of secrecy surrounding these operations and an utter failure of Congress to hold ICE to any type of transparency standards. He said, this source said, Congress has failed to make these operations public in any way. All of the ICE operations, anything ICE is involved in, their MO, their philosophies, their operations, where they stand in all this, none of it is transparent. These are the things that made him want to leak. Okay? Operation Abracadabra. This is from the document itself. We're just going to bring a few of these operations to your attention. Operation Abracadabra. That was initiated with the requirement of interviewing 100% of individuals apprehended to gather intelligence and identify follow-on targets, such as stash houses and individuals conducting illegal activity. The purpose is trying to tie any individual who crosses the border illegally to a foreign terrorist organization or a transnational criminal organization so they can use intelligence and develop more targets. What they're telling you, one, is that ICE's job far exceeds what ICE is supposed to be concentrated on. This is into the FBI's territory. There's no doubt about it. And some FBI agents have spoken out about it as well. But they're doing the FBI's job now. They are doing the FBI's job. But this isn't just that. What they're talking about is ICE's attempt at using intelligence gathering and witness testimony and all types of information gathering apparatus at their disposal to tie every illegal, every undocumented immigrant to some kind of terrorist organization or get them as a non-state combatant. There's that term again, right? Non-state combatant. Because if they're non-state combatants, if we can tie any of these illegals or the people they lived with or their family members or their friends to any type of gang or cartel, they become non-state combatants and we can do what we want because we are at war with the cartels. That's why we can blow boats out of the water. You see, that's why we can just kinetically strike those we accuse or think are part of a cartel running drugs. We can just blow them out of the water because they're non-state combatants. This Operation Abracadabra is intended to use all intelligence gathering and information gathering that they can muster from detainees or those that they have arrested, anybody undocumented, an attempt to make everybody they're involved with or family members or friends part of a criminal organization. Then we can do what we want. Then they have no rights. Then they're combatants in war. And if somebody gets killed, somebody gets killed. This is war. This is war. I'm going to give you another operation, a few more when we come back. I'm going to give you a few more operations. Just the big ones. Just the biggies. ICE has become so much more than the face of Trump's immigration agenda. So much more. They are now secret intelligence gatherers. They are now FBI agents. They are now the arbiters of who lives and dies. And in the face of a murder, you've got our president reiterating time and again with the vice president and Kristi Noem about immunity. Something he promised these officers in his campaign. Immunity for murder. We're coming back.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
All right, kids. We're in overtime. Stream's going strong. We're going to stay strong today. And I'm looking at the shot. I guess I got to do something about this stack because we're about to hit the logo. We're about to hit the logo. I can't have it go up on the logo. That's so unprofessional, right? Can't have it go up over the logo. So we're going to have to find something to do. And we'll build the stack again. Okay. All right, so that's Operation Abracadabra, right? Gather intelligence to link anybody who is familiar with a detainee or somebody who was arrested with a criminal organization or a cartel to make them a non-state combatant or put them on a domestic terrorist list or a foreign terrorist list, whatever. Just as long as everybody knows you're a terrorist. Then we can do what we want. There's also Operation Benchwarmer. This is cute. Government employees dressing up as plain clothes and disguising themselves as ordinary people in demonstrations, gatherings, protests to gather intelligence. This is from the document. Plainclothes agents have been embedded in transport vans, sally ports, processing areas, and detention cells to gather important tactical information and tactical intelligence and information focused on collecting information not normally gained during formal interviews. And this is why whistleblowers, they're important. But they're also impactful. They're impactful for good or for bad. In this case, okay, so now we've got a whistleblower telling you that embedded in protests and demonstrations, but not just there, embedded in detention cells and transport vans, along with other detainees, we've got undercover agents posing as detainees to gather intelligence. If I was a detainee or I was somebody who, like many of these people, were raised here and a little more savvy, right? Not just somebody who doesn't speak the language and is confused about the whole thing, but somebody who knows some of these people, speaks the language, maybe friends with some other people that are being detained, whatever, can relate to them, whatever. Now, I'm going to know to keep it zipped. If I was going to share some sensitive information or intelligence, I'm not now. Not now. And I'm going to instruct anybody else I know that is or is not a U.S. citizen, anybody I know who is brown and could be possibly subject to ICE detainment. I'm going to let them know, hey, by the way, if you get detained, you may be next to an agent in the transport van or in your holding cell or on your block. Could be an agent. Watch what you say and watch who you say it to. That's why whistleblowers are so impactful, for good or for bad. Very impactful. The FBI did talk about some of this. They did. I mean, look, we've got Operation At Large. Dramatically, it details dramatically increasing the amount of arrests, not just of undocumented immigrants, but arrests of anybody who is organizing domestic terror, right? The activists and their funders. It details a massive increase in arrests. Operation Los Angeles. That talked about taking over state and local law enforcement and making them all de facto ICE agents. Nice little police state situation. Operation Tidal Wave, using law enforcement to dramatically increase traffic stop interdictions. They're talking about co-opting law enforcement's time and efforts and their officers to assist in finding on the roadways, identifying, pulling over, interdicting in any way, traffic stop interdictions in any way of detainees, possible undocumented immigrants, more on the road so we can have more situations like Renee Nicole Good or this gentleman who was shot. We can have more of that. They want more and more law enforcement cooperation interdicting these undocumented immigrants or U.S. citizens or whatever. It doesn't really matter to ICE. Not anymore. I mean, how many stories have I already brought you about U.S. citizens getting roughed up, shot, thrown in a van? Citizen, not citizen, ICE doesn't give a crap. Not anymore. And then there's Operation Fleur-de-Lis. That's in New Orleans. That operation solely focuses on disrupting and dismantling criminal organizations in New Orleans. That is not your job, ICE. Sounds like something Rudy Giuliani used to do in New York with the mob. Like disrupting and dismantling criminal organizations. Now, gathering intelligence from detainees about criminal organizations, you're getting closer to your job. But actually going in and disrupting and dismantling criminal organizations. In Operation Fleur-de-Lis, there is no mention of undocumented immigrants or border crossings or anybody who facilitates them at all in that operation. They're just doing the FBI's job. Plain and simple. They're now just doing the FBI's job. And one FBI source talked about this, okay? This source said they are alarmed by ICE's heavy-handedness and its creeping takeover. What am I describing here? The FBI sees it for what it is. There is widespread concern that ICE's actions are coloring the American public's view of law enforcement in general. The source says that enforcing the law demands scrupulous adherence to the law in doing so, and fears that ICE has abandoned such fundamental principle, believing through masking and its belligerence towards the public that the law doesn't apply to it. That's our FBI talking. That's our FBI talking. Now, there's one thing going around in the news cycle right now that we have kind of stiff-armed, and that's the Iranian protests. Scott brings me the info. I've kind of stiff-armed it. I haven't really felt it kind of fit in the narrative that we've been running lately, and I really have been hyper-focused on what's happening on Minneapolis, and I feel justifiably so. But just know that there are massive protests in Iran. Why? Because their economy is in collapse. The cost of living, there's a complete cost of living crisis. There is corruption. There is oppression. There is social restrictions. This is all coming to a head in Iran right now, and they are protesting mass protests, and those protests are being met by violence from the Iranian government. That's in a nutshell. We are experiencing that here. Mass protests due to governmental actions. The president's ICE immigration policy. Our president, this guy, the stuff that he is normalizing in the Oval Office, it just makes me so very sad what he's normalizing. Of the Iranian protests, he said Tuesday, keep protesting. Take over your institutions. He wrote on social media, decrying the senseless killing of protesters and adding that those pulling the triggers will pay a big price. How can he be so blind to the hypocrisy of what he's saying? How can he be that blind? How is it possible? As Renee Nicole Good is shot and killed, and he justifies it, defends it, and talks about that officer's immunity. On the back end, after that incident, he says the people who are shooting protesters in Iran will pay a big price, urging Iranian protesters to take over their institutions, while threatening to evoke the Insurrection Act here because he feels protesters here are violent insurrectionists damaging federal property and assaulting federal agents. What did he say just 63 minutes before he posted that True Social post about Iran? What did he post just 63 minutes prior to that? Quote, anarchists and professional agitators are trying to cover up a fraud scandal in Minneapolis. He vowed that the day of reckoning and retribution is coming. the hypocrisy is absolutely stunning. It is absolutely stunning. And this is what I'm talking about, man. Like something like that. The news cycle doesn't even skip a beat. He doesn't even think twice. He just says it and posts it. Doesn't skip a beat. I mean, not only has he normalized amorality, just a profound lack of morality, normalized, right? Normalized. Physically mocking a handicapped reporter, grab him in the pee, calling reporters piggies, giving people the finger. 23 sexual encounters with porn stars. 23 times he cheated on his wife. Tells an 11-year-old, I'll see you in a few years, or whatever he said. I'll be dating you in a few years. Goes on Howard Stern talking about recounting details of him looking at Miss Teen USA pageant contestants dressing. Not only has he completely normalized, it seems, a profound lack of morality, he has normalized violent rhetoric. He has normalized tribalism in the Oval Office that we have never seen the likes of. Every time he opens his mouth, the Biden administration screwed us, radicalized leftists, radicalized Democrats, traitors, enemies to America, not patriots. Every time he opens his mouth, it's now normalized. In his first administration, when he started to say these things, we spoke out against it. We said, oh my God, how could he say these things? Now we just blow right past it. We blow right past it. He has normalized enriching himself through the Oval Office like we've never seen. The grift after grift after grift, the innovator of the grift. I'm not going to sit here and recount all of his grifts. We've done the shows. You can go check out the headlines of the shows. If you want to know what ones to check out, specifically the gems, I'll let you know. Just message me and I'll tell you about Sheikh Tanoon, who wanted the NVIDIA chips and gave Trump $2 billion, then got his chips. Or I could tell you about the dinners with the White House seal at a podium that he spoke to at a crypto dinner while everybody there just simply dumped millions of dollars into his crypto fund for favors or the pardons. I could do it all. It's been normalized. But now, when I think about what he said here, he's not just normalizing lying, which he did 30,000 plus times in his first administration, and who knows what he's up to now in this second administration, but he's normalizing us not being able to take a damn word our president says seriously at all. I mean, this isn't lying. This is just garbage rhetoric that is so damn hypocritical, you could slice it up and serve it out. And he doesn't skip a beat. When the president speaks, we used to listen. It used to mean something. It used to be impactful. We used to take what our president said seriously. And he has normalized us absolutely blowing past the most ridiculous, incoherent rhetoric out of the Oval Office. And we do it regularly now. We just blow right past it. This won't even make a dent in the news feed. It will not even be a blip on our radar. He's completely normalized it. Not just lying. We just don't take anything this man says seriously. Period. But I'll tell you what people are taking seriously. I'm gonna leave you with this last story. And I don't know, some of you may have heard of it. It's starting to make big headlines. The FBI has searched a Washington Post reporter's home. Now, this was with a warrant. I want you to keep that in mind. This is with a warrant. They're looking into a government contractor, a contractor with the Pentagon that had been in contact with a reporter, Hannah Natanson of the Washington Post. They went to her home in the middle of the night. They seized her phone, 2 laptops, her Garmin watch, searched her home office. One of the laptops was her personal computer. The other one was a Post-issued laptop. Okay? The Post itself also got a subpoena. The FBI wants to go into the Post and search her office and look for communications there between her and this contractor. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you the part that you already know. It is exceedingly rare for the FBI or any law enforcement official to conduct searches at reporters' homes, because this used to be America. And there are federal regulations to protect free press and protect their sources, and designed to make it extremely difficult for law enforcement to use these kind of tactics against reporters. And I was thinking, well, what's the most prominent legislation that's used to protect reporters? And it looks like it's the Privacy and Protection Act of 1980, which prohibits law enforcement from searching the home, the office, or the newsroom of any reporters. The Privacy Protection Act of 1980. Now, what can she do about this? All she can do is sue. Civil litigation in a federal court. That's all she can do. Now, this has to develop. We'll see what they do about this. Okay? They assured her that she was not the focus of the probe. The warrant, and there was a warrant, which leads me to think the judge who signed this warrant. You know, my wife watches a lot of Law and Order because she's a lawyer, an attorney, and she loves Law and Order, loves Cold Case, loves SVU, and I'm watching it with her a lot. And there's always that scene. Inevitably, there's a scene where it's right in the middle of the show, right? The cops do their investigating. They chase the criminals around. They get the witnesses, and they get, descriptions, this, that. Then they think they've got somebody, and they have to get a warrant, right? We all know that scene. And they go to some, sanctimonious, solemn judge who's also has quips ready that you know the scene, and they got to get a warrant, right? And the judge is always like, well, what about this, right? Or what about that? You're interpreting this. I think about what judge signed this warrant. What judge signed this warrant? It's a judge who either A, doesn't know about the Privacy and Protection Act of 1980, or B, doesn't give a crap. Was it even considered? There's a reason law enforcement officials do not bust down the door of reporters' homes when they think that this reporter, one of their sources, may be somebody we're looking for or investigating or need for an investigation. There's a reason we don't see this, but under this administration, all bets are off, right? Who was that judge? I went looking. No definitive information yet on who the judge was. Just give me a little time on that. Give me just a little time. We'll get him. Her, him, whoever it is. We'll get him. Okay? The law enforcement was investigating Aurelio Perez Lugones. He's a system administrator in Maryland who has top secret security clearance and has been accused of accessing and taking home classified intelligence reports from secure government facilities that were later found in his lunchbox and in his basement. That is important. That's what the warrant says. That's why they're investigating. That's why they told Hannah they were investigating, because this gentleman, Aurelio Perez Lugones, had top secret clearance materials that he accessed and stole. He stole top secret material. Okay. Now, he has been arrested. What does Pam Bondi have to say about this? She absolutely cannot get her crap together. She is going to get fired. And part of why she's going to get fired is crap like this. Listen to what she has to say. This is a ridiculous person. She says, this past week, at the request of the Department of War, the Department of Justice, and the FBI, we executed a search warrant at the home of a Washington Post journalist who was obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from a Pentagon contractor. The Trump administration will not tolerate illegal leaks of classified information that, when reported, pose a grave risk to our nation's national security and the brave men and women who are serving our country. First of all, here they go again, invoking the name of our servicemen to justify their illegality, whatever illegal action it may be. When it was the Iran bombing, they said, if you speak out against our bombing in Iran or tell us in any way that we shouldn't have done it or it wasn't as successful as we say it wasn't as bigly and strongly and quickly as our president said it was, then you're disrespecting the servicemen who conducted the strike. You see how they do that every single time they turn around. They are invoking our servicemen to shame you into silence and complicity. It's pathetic. And I wonder how our servicemen and women feel about being used as pawns in their little propaganda scheme. I digress. The other thing about this, he was charged unlawfully retaining national defense information. He was not charged with leaking. He was not charged with disclosing classified information. Natanson has not been accused of any wrongdoing, including leaking anything classified, and yet our AG is very comfortable coming out and making a statement like that. Journalist was obtaining and reporting classified and illegally leaked information from a Pentagon contractor. So, if you're an average American who swore to God this was still America and can't really wrap your head around the FBI kicking down the door of a reporter over a source, if you're struggling with how this could be right, how this could be legal, how this could be just, why they should be doing this, and you turn to your AG, Pam Bondi, for answers, what you're going to get from her is lies. Either lies or she absolutely has no clue about what this was about. No details, no understanding, no grasp of what happened and why. She either has no clue or she's bald-face lying once again. And you know who else has no clue? Who never has a clue? Because he doesn't really run our country and he is in cognitive decline, is President Donald Trump. What did he say about this? He seized on the one untrue portion of this whole story. Of course he did, and made a statement. The leaker has been found and is in jail right now, and that's the leaker on Venezuela, and a very bad leaker. Speaks like a 5-year-old. And he only seized on the untrue portion of this story that Pam Bondi was so damn confident running out and telling the American public about, which is the leaking. Nothing was leaked to the press. The press didn't leak anything. He's not even accused of leaking. If they thought he was leaking, they would have accused him. They would have charged him. He is charged with retaining classified information. Hard stop. So it's important to know. The U.S. has no law that explicitly makes it a crime for a journalist to obtain or publish classified information. How about that? How about that? So the justification Pam Bondi is giving you for busting in her door is that she was leaking classified information. We don't even have a law addressing journalists releasing classified information that they had been leaked. We don't even have a law on it. In 2019, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, he was indicted under the Espionage Act for disclosing some classified information. That was a little different. It was a tweak. But here's the thing. It didn't get really disseminated because they reached a plea deal in 2024. So we don't really have precedent. So here we go. Again. She is going to sue the DOJ and the FBI. She's going to sue. A judge is going to rule. The government is going to appeal that rule. And then what's going to happen, kids? You tell me. We're playing this game again. What's that? That's right. It'll go to the Supreme Court. And they'll rule for Don. And that will be the end of free speech. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but this is how free speech dies. If it goes to the Supreme Court and then they rule for Don, they rule for the administration and say, you know what? They absolutely can do this. They absolutely can prosecute journalists for the leaked information that they publish, and we absolutely can kick in doors going forward to investigate these types of crimes. We just can. We're just going to be doing that going forward. This is how free speech dies. You tie this along with Project 2025 co-author Brendan Carr now being the head of the FCC, talking about pulling media's licenses and retribution, making sure people get fired that speak out against the administration, suing CBS, suing Paramount. Add this all together, along with shooting protesters and tear gassing protesters, labeling protesters and activists and demonstrators who are exercising their First Amendment, labeling them as domestic terrorists, labeling them as Antifa, who is now on our domestic terrorist list. This is how free speech dies. This right here. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being a panickin. I am simply documenting in real time how free speech absolutely is killed in America. Now, I'm going to bring you a couple statements. About this. Will Lewis, he is the publisher of The Post and CEO of The Post Company. He spoke about this. He said, Hannah is one of our finest reporters who works tirelessly to inform our readers about what is actually happening in government. He goes on. Unsurprisingly, her spirit is not dimmed by the outrageous actions that was taken against her in the early morning at her home, even with her laptop and phone taken. What did she most want to do today? Get back to work and file some hard-hitting news stories, thus exemplifying the indomitable spirit of the Washington Post. After all, this is what we do. I want to bring you something else that somebody said. The Post's executive editor, Matt Murray, he spoke. He sent a memo out to all of the Post reporters in light of this. He said the publication was informed that neither Natanson nor the Post is the target of the FBI investigation, which is aimed at the government contractor accused of illegally retaining classified government materials. Nonetheless, this extraordinary, aggressive action is deeply concerning. He followed it up later that day by saying, we are continuing to vigorously defend our journalists and our work. Okay, so we heard from their executive editor and we heard from the CEO of the Post, both in staunch defense of Hannah Natanson. Right? No doubt. They are defending her. They are standing by her. Who haven't we heard from? Jeff Bezos, the guy who owns the Post. And I'm going to leave you with this. Jeff Bezos has been absolutely silent through all of this. And it's important for us to know and understand and remember that Jeff Bezos has several companies. A lot of these companies take in billions of dollars in federal space and defense contracts, subsidies, our money. Some of their companies require satellite communication, heavily dependent on our government. Since Donald Trump has taken office, he's replaced the Post's leadership and its writers for its editorial page with more conservative figures. He spiked the Post's endorsements of Trump, and he appeared at Trump's inauguration. He realizes that the fate of all of his companies and all of his endeavors rest with how Trump feels about the Washington Post. He knows it. Everything his empire is built upon could come crumbling down if something comes out of the Post egregious enough in Don's eyes. So he's got two choices. And I think we know what he'll choose. He can either come out in defense of Hannah Natanson and our rights and our laws, and he can speak about this in truth, or he can remain silent and complicit once again. What do you think he'll choose? We'll be back tomorrow with a Friday show. Thanks for hanging out with me, kids.